What if one of the strangest places on Earth is hiding in plain sight? Deep in Antarctica, surrounded by mountains, ice, and one of the most hostile environments on the planet, there is a mountain that looks almost impossible to explain. From certain angles, it looks like a perfect pyramid. It has four steep sides rising toward a sharp summit. And when satellite images of this formation appeared online, the internet immediately had a question. Is this just a mountain? Or could something much older be hiding beneath Antarctica? Scientists have a far more ordinary explanation. The formation is believed to be a natural mountain shaped over millions of years by erosion and ice. And pyramid-shaped mountains are not unique to Antarctica. But there is something fascinating about this place, because Antarctica is not just a frozen continent. Beneath the ice is an entire hidden landscape: mountains, valleys, deep basins, and enormous lakes buried beneath kilometers of ice. Much of it was invisible to humans until modern radar and satellite technology revealed what was underneath. And this is where our story takes a strange turn, because thousands of miles away, across the Atlantic Ocean, another region became famous for stories of unexplained disappearances: the Bermuda Triangle, a huge area between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. For decades, stories circulated about ships and aircraft disappearing without explanation. But one case became legendary: Flight 19, December 5, 1945. Five American TBM Avenger bombers took off from Florida on a routine training mission. The aircraft were experienced military machines. The crews were trained. But something went wrong. The pilots became confused about their position. Their radio communications became increasingly uncertain. And eventually, all five aircraft disappeared. A rescue aircraft sent to search for them disappeared as well. 14 men from Flight 19 were never found. The incident became one of the foundations of the Bermuda Triangle legend. But there is an important problem with the mystery. There are plausible explanations: navigation errors, weather, mechanical problems, and the enormous difficulty of finding wreckage in the open ocean. So perhaps there was never anything supernatural about the Bermuda Triangle. But now move the clock forward, just 1 year later, and move thousands of miles south to Antarctica. In 1946, the United States launched one of the largest Antarctic expeditions ever organized. It was called Operation Highjump, and it was led by one of the most famous polar explorers in history, Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd. This was not a small scientific expedition. Around 4,700 personnel took part: 13 ships, dozens of aircraft, military personnel, scientists, engineers, photographers, and enormous amounts of equipment. Aircraft were launched from ships and ice bases. Thousands of photographs were taken. Vast areas of Antarctica were mapped and documented. Officially, the mission had practical goals: scientific research, mapping, testing equipment, training personnel for extreme polar conditions, and establishing an American presence in Antarctica. But after the expedition, something else began to grow: a legend. Stories appeared claiming that Byrd and his men had discovered something they were never supposed to find: secret bases, unknown aircraft, strange technology, and eventually, UFOs. According to later conspiracy theories, the expedition had encountered something far beyond the technology of the 1940s. Some versions even claim that a secret conflict had taken place beneath the Antarctic ice. But there is a problem. There is no reliable evidence that Operation Highjump fought extraterrestrial aircraft. And the famous secret diary attributed to Byrd, which supposedly describes an extraordinary journey beyond the polar region, has never been authenticated as a genuine diary written by Byrd. So, should we simply forget the entire story? Not so fast, because the real history is already fascinating. Operation Highjump was enormous. The Antarctic environment was brutally difficult. Aircraft were operating in conditions they had never been designed to handle, and the expedition produced an enormous amount of photographic and geographic information about one of the least explored places on Earth. And then there is the pyramid. Look at it again: a mountain, four steep sides, a sharp summit, almost geometric. But nature has a strange habit of creating shapes that look designed. Glaciers can carve mountains into remarkably symmetrical forms. Erosion can produce ridges, arches, and peaks that look almost artificial. So the pyramid itself is not evidence of an ancient civilization, but it raises a much more interesting question. What else is underneath the ice? Because modern science has already shown us that Antarctica is not the flat, empty froze